Welcome back to doing fun stuff under the Infiniti. Today's little project is the alternator. So that's what we diagnosed the problem as. So this should be fairly maybe similar to the power steering pump that we just did, but we're up for the challenge, I guess. So let's get it.
So here's where we're looking. That whole piece right there is the alternator. So the first thing we need to do is to release the tension on here, which is that's right there. So on that pulley right there, we need to loosen that, and then we loosen that one, and then we can take the belt off, and then we'll move on to disconnecting the hoses. Cool.
So got that loosened so the belt is then easily able to come off. Then we're gonna take this piece off right here. First we can just loosen this because I know I didn't have it very tight from before, so I can just do that with my fingers. Lift this and kind of get it out of the way.
And we just have this hose to deal with.
But when you take that off, there's going to be a lot of coolant that will come out. So get an oil pan and some rags or newspaper and be ready for that. So we got those unattached. Make sure to have a towel or something that you can shove in there to stop, because it will leak a good bit here. So now we have those out of the way, we can start trying to disconnect some of the bolts. There's some bolts that hold it in that are really long, and you won't be able to get out without moving the fan here in the front. So that is our next step here, is to move this whole fan assembly in the front. Anyway, to get the fan kind of out of its place, you have to finagle with the air box a little bit, so be patient. And then we're going to disconnect the battery since we're dealing with power stuff, especially since the alternator is what charges the battery, so we don't want to mess around with electricity there. So we're going to disconnect the negative terminal, and then we're going to work on disconnecting the two sensors that come out of the alternator itself there. So after we get those sensors disconnected, which might take a little finagling with a flathead screwdriver, we're gonna work on taking this front strut sway bar off. Yeah, there's some connections on either end. You'll just have to ratchet off. Yeah.
Okay, so there's four bolts on either end of this bar that you have to get off to loosen it up.
Maybe.
Alright, so there's four connections you need to loosen on either end of that, but then it should kind of drop down and hang there by its connections yonder. So now we have a pretty straight shot at the alternator. Alright, so the first bolt we're going to undo is that one right about there on the bottom of the alternator. And the next one my brother's going to show you
is in here on the top of the alternator. You can't actually see anything, so good work.
in there. What he's getting is a fairly long bolt that needs to come out. That's why we had to move the fan, because that bolt is going to come out and not be able to go any further because of the fan. So that's going to take a little bit to get out. It's going to be pretty long. Alright, so then there's a few difficult things that I'm going to try to look at here.
The grips.
Yep, there's two 8mm little bolts on the back. They're on like a bracket piece that are kind of hard to get to, but you have to get those off. And there's going to be one more. There's going to be a 13 on the back, and those should be the final connections to get undone here before it comes out. So that difficult nut that we've been trying to get out for a while was actually a 12, not a 13, which really exponentially helped the speed of getting it out when you use the right size. So Now, it's pretty much disconnected, and just kind of force it out. Suckers out. It's a little nasty. Old versus new. Gross. So we got it up in there and used the long bolt to hold it in, as we then need to connect everything else. But that one will hold it to keep my brother's pretty little face safe. So, got the new one in. The bolts on the front pretty easy, even with that long one. The back, up in all that jazz right there, there's a bolt that's extremely difficult to get on and off. But we figured a way to get them both on there. So, got it in, got the connectors back done. So now all I have to do is reconnect this nice little bar.
Hey, doggo.
Reconnect this nice little bar, put the belt back on, and that's it. Alright, so we got the alternator back on, I got this bar back on. Now all I need to do is put the belt back on and tighten the tensioners. Almost there. Alright, so I got the air box back in and all that set up, along with the fan up front. Now all I need to do is I just put the belt back on. So all I need to do is tighten up the tensioner, put some more coolant in because we lost a good bit of that, and then jumper and see if it works. Just a pro tip, my dudes. If you're gonna work on your own car at all, invest in one of these. It makes life 1,000,000% nicer. I'm not saying they made the job easy, but a lot more comfortable than I would have been on my back all that time. Oh gosh, I need freeze coolant. Here we go. Fill it up to max, because I know there's gonna be some that runs through. Alright, and I think everything is back together except that battery terminal. Negative battery terminal back on, so let me do that real quick. I'm gonna layer down and hope everything works. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching that video on how to change an alternator on the G35 or 350Z. If you found it helpful, informative at all, please hit that thumbs up button. If you have any questions or have any concerns or anything to say, put that in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button, that helps me out a bunch. As always guys, I'm just Sean being Sean. Just being me, just be you. Catch you on the flip. Stop fussing, stop guessing, it's me and I'm